Okay, hello everybody. Most of you have already met me in a face-to-face setting, but I do want to make sure that I covered all the important aspects of the class, and I make a little welcome video to make sure that I've done that. I want you to watch this, even though it's repeating a lot of the things I said face-to-face, to make sure this is a good choice for you. There are two goals with this video. Is this the right class at the right professor at the right time? And there's also a lot of information about the structure of the class. Actually, some of the stuff about the structure of the class I don't get to in my first face-to-face session, so that's why I make this video. In case you missed the first day, I am Rick Cook. Please call me Rick or Professor Cook. I try to avoid Mr. Cook because that reminds me of being a principal, which reminds me of busting kids for pot and supervising lunchrooms and obnoxious varsity basketball game work. Those are the least enjoyable aspects of being a principal. I really enjoyed my work with students and teachers improving student outcomes, but in all those scenarios, people called me Rick. Mr. Cook was only used when there was a problem. So I'm leaning into the fact that the rest of my life I will be just a professor. So I like Professor Cook or Rick. I like Rick as well. This is my 26th year teaching college first year composition, teaching this class. And it's ironic to me that I took the class as a freshman at the University of Michigan a long time ago. Because of my experience in that class, I ended up being a writing teacher. I started at LCC in 1999. Over the course of these 25 years, I've taught at Michigan State, Central Michigan, Grand Valley, and at Baker. Over the last 10 years, I've taught here at the Wilson Talent Center the Ferris State curriculum, and it's actually the one I like the most out of all of these places. It's very accommodating. The English department is full of really smart, experienced people, and I really like the way the course is set up. So, is this the right course? Is this the right class? This class is designed to offer you transferable skills. So every class session, there's 15 class sessions, every experience in the class is intended to give you a chance to develop an aspect of writing, the skill of writing, that you'll have to use later on in your academic careers. What you really need to ask yourself is, can you, by the end of the class, create insightful content, clearly organize it, express it in concise ways with mechanically correct language? That's the goal. And in fact, those are the four elements of the rubric, which we'll be looking at. Without me, can you produce college level work? Because my class itself is meaningless. What matters is what you can do after it. We talked a lot in the first class about real writing, and that the purpose of real writing is to tell other people what they don't already know. In every class, we talked to a boy who was pregnant. Of course, the boy wasn't pregnant, but the boy told us what we already knew about teenage pregnancy. The heart of all writing is when a writer knows something that the reader doesn't. It's unusual in high school settings to actually do this because most of the time you're writing to a teacher that has all the answers already and just wants to see you come up with them. It's also important to note that you're writing essays, not reports. This isn't a collection of facts. This isn't something I can Google. And in fact, the first essay, you don't use any sources. Instead, it's an attempt for you to use writing, just words on a page, to get a reader to feel, know, and believe something you feel and know and believe about a topic. It's incredibly challenging. Real writing has an extended revision process. This isn't about what you can write the night before or the morning of, or what you can make AI spit out, but rather, how strong can you make 3 writing projects when we have 15 weeks to work on them? And these are extremely high standards. Most Americans cannot write at this level. only 36% of Americans have a 4-year degree. So you're attempting to do something most people can't. Even a lot of people with a 4-year degree that they earned 10 or 15 or 20 years ago can't, because the level of writing and the expectation of your ability as a writer has only grown throughout the last 20 years. The class presumes you can already do some things in terms of writing. You can write in complete sentences and follow basic grammar rules. You can read for information and study models of writing. We only look at models of writing. The only thing you read in this class that is something that we all read, you'll do research on your own, but something that we all read is models of expository essays. It assumes you know how to organize a basic essay, beginning, middle, and end, even though I'm going to teach you some college level strategies for that. And it assumes you can use technology to complete basic writing, reading, and researching tasks. Most students, I would say 90% of students, can't already write at a college level. And that's okay. If you could, why would you take the class? But knowing that, I want you to think about what your grades are going to be early on. Now recognize you can always revise, and your grade is where you're at the end, not where you were at the beginning. Another thing you should know about this class is that it is a non-AI section. I am both old and old school. I think, in the future, good writers are going to use AI, but you are not there yet. You are not at a spot where your AI is going to be able to make your life more efficient, because you need to understand what it's doing first. It's a lot like a calculator in math. Early on, students don't use calculators because they need to understand some basics. The other thing you should know about me is that I embrace what it means to be in college. You are here voluntarily, and you are choosing to be a college student. That means there's no high school nonsense. You're not late. You don't turn in work late. You don't get half credit. There's no behavior problems. You come to class. If you don't come to class, you stop coming to class. Your classmates paid for a college experience. And if you're doing something in class that hurts that college experience, I'm going to ask you to leave. You're going to be excused from the course. It's really simple. Be an adult, act like an adult, contribute. And that does not mean you have to talk. And this isn't a class where, I count how many times you raise your hand. But it is a class where if you're on your cell phone, if you're distracting, if you are in somehow hurting the environment, the academic environment that I'm creating, if you're making it harder to do what is already a really hard job, I'm going to ask you to leave. You got to make sure I'm the right guy for you. I'm not a teacher. I'm a writer. I believe that college is not for everyone. I believe that you are a less experienced writer that wants some guidance from me. And you acknowledge I know things that you don't. And that's why we're here. That's why we're working together. As a writer, I know that writing is never done. It is just due. And therefore, I embrace the process of writing, that it's messy, that it's not simple, that it's different for everyone, that there are times when it's faster and there's times when it's slower. As a working writer, I know that conversation is critical and feedback is critical, and that real writing cannot be rushed. I am not interested in prisoner writing. And what that really boils down to is my effort matches yours. If you're doing the bare minimum to meet an assignment, I'm going to do the bare minimum to qualify as your professor. And I've said this already, I'm not interested in an AI product. I use a robust AI checker. You have to write all drafts in the same Google Doc. And I don't mean essays 1, 2, and 3 in one doc, but all of essay 1 is written from early stages till final in one Google Doc. It allows me to review the writing because I have a really powerful AI tool that makes a video essentially of your process, like looking at you over your shoulder as you're writing. It's a video of every keystroke of your crafted Google Doc. Is this the right time in your life to be successful? College publishes how much time you should have to be successful. So they say for every 1 credit of a college class, you should expect 2 to 3 hours of work outside of it. So if we have a 3 hour class, that's 6 to 9. I actually think that's um, probably just a slightly high. I think it's more like 5 to 8. And there's more at the end, and that's not like doing math problems 1 through 31 odd. It's mostly about thinking. That if you're really writing, you spend a lot of time thinking about your work. In fact, you should expect, if you want to do well in this class, that you're going to think daily. Um, and you're going to ask questions. You contact me often. My email is the best way to get a hold of me. I actually, down here, I give you my cell phone for emergencies. But I include academic things as emergencies, not just, my car doesn't start. Um, To be successful, you should cultivate relationships with your peers. They're your readers. You're writing for them. So it's really valuable to have a relationship so you can get honest feedback. You got to be willing to throw out bad ideas and take the time that takes. Real writing, one of the most valuable things you learn as a real writer is to celebrate letting go of bad ideas. And we keep bad ideas because we're in high school and we just got to get it done. You're not in high school anymore. And I said this in the opening day, and I repeat it over and over and over again. If you treat an essay like an assignment, like something you have to do, that you're only doing because it was assigned, that's not real writing. And it will be a bad experience for you and a bad experience for your readers. Um, we use Google Classroom in this class, and you got to be able to check and use your Ingham ISD email. The online students have a weekly sheet that only applies to them, and they actually have a different video as well. But there's a weekly sheet that the online students keep track of their stuff. Everyone else uses Google Classroom to keep track of their stuff. This is Tuesday AM Google Classroom. Here's the class materials, and then here's the first week. It's got the due dates, then week 2 and some due dates, and then we'll just keep adding weeks as we go through the class. If you'd like a broad look at everything in the class, you can go to this course schedule, and it shows you all the important days. So on the 26th was the class introduction. On August 30th, you turn in these things. On September 1st, you turn in these things. On September 2nd, this is what we do in class. This is all repeated in the Google Classroom. So the due dates are in here as well. You can see it in both places. We use the question function for discussion boards, and you'll get feedback on discussion boards for that. The syllabus, which you can find in the Google Classroom under class materials, class runs from either Tuesday to Monday, if you have class on Tuesday, or if you have class on Wednesday, it runs Wednesday to Tuesday. You have a weekly response, so videos and readings will usually have some kind of weekly response that's usually in the form of a quiz. And you're constantly working on the writing projects, essays 1, 2, or 3. Everything in this class is crafted to help you create the best essays 1, 2, and 3 that you can. Because of that, the weighting in the course is set up in a particular way. I guess I should probably open the syllabus so you can see what I'm talking about. So the class is weighted to reflect this about the essays. Essay 1 is 10%, essay 2 is 10%, essay 3 is 40%, and then there's a letter of reflection, which is 5%. Your weekly work, which is your peer response, and your quizzes is 35%. And you have to do all the assignments to get the points. So I'm not interested in a bunch of meaningless grading. I put a ton of comments on your essays, but if you don't do all of the weekly work, you don't get any of the points, any of the 35%. So just imagine you start off, if you don't do one assignment, your grade immediately goes down to 65%. This is college. We're not messing around. You need to do the work. I don't ask for a lot of busy work. Everything I ask is meaningful, that helps either your essay or somebody else's. So You got to do it. Please make sure you read all of the syllabus. I don't want to just read all to you in this video. Um, there is a ton of work around discussion and peer feedback and revision. Um, the most valuable people in this class are your peers. You'll end up relying on them for feedback intensely. And it's actually one of the greatest things about writing with a class. So I write all the time and I don't have an audience. I don't have access to my audience. I'm asking people to read stuff all the time, but it quickly wears them out. Okay, I've been married 25 years. My wife doesn't really like reading my stuff anymore because it's been 25 years of it. Now, of course, she does still read my work because we're married, but um, it is a wonderful experience to take class with other people that are engaged. If you're engaged, find people in the class that are engaged, and then you'll be successful. So, just briefly, the policies: no absences are allowed, there's no late work, you got to complete all the weekly work to get the points. If you're not doing the work, you will know why your essay isn't passing, isn't successful. You have to complete all the steps of the writing process when we write a draft. So that means you can't hand me something that we've never seen before or that hasn't gone through the process. You got to have about 4,000 words by the end of the class over 4 projects. So that's 3 essays plus a letter of reflection. You can revise stuff right up until the end of the class, and the essays must be drafted in a single doc for each one. Okay, and all of this is explained in more depth in other places as well. I do have official office hours from 8 to 10 on Thursday and morning and 7 to 8 on Thursday night. I make sure I'm available. I don't just sit in Google Classroom, but if you need me, I am available. Contact, email is king. Make sure you email me. If you're awake, I respond. I did put my cell phone on there if you need it. I'm really looking forward to this semester. Every year I change my curriculum, I tweak it. My students are different, so I try to meet them where they're at, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. I choose to do this. I could retire, but I want to keep teaching because I enjoy helping writers, and I appreciate it if you come to class with that same sense of this is a choice you're making. You're not forced to be there, and let's see how far you can develop your writing skills.